Hey guys, I have a question. Can the way that we breathe affect the way that we focus, affect the way that we function, and just affect how tired we are? I mean, does breathing really play that much of a part in our lives? Well, the quick answer is yes. Breathing differently and breathing properly will change your life. So what looks healthier to you? Someone breathing like this? Or someone breathing like this? If you guessed the second option, or the option where I breathe through my nose, you are correct. But if you guessed the first option, disappointed. Mouth breathing is terrible for you. This is just a fact. And this science has been around for many, many years. And even in the early 1900s, there were many advertisements that were telling you to stop breathing through your mouth. So they knew back then that something was wrong with it. So my question is, if we knew that this was bad for so many years, how come so many people are mouth breathers still? Well, one reason I think, you might think I'm a conspiracy theorist or something, but there's just no money in telling people to stop breathing through their mouth. Like, you can't just have someone buy these pills off of you and have them magically start breathing through their nose instead of their mouth. Now, what is the big deal with breathing through your mouth? And can it really affect the way that we focus and function? Well, yes. And one reason nose breathing is so much better is because we get way more oxygen from breathing through our nose than breathing through our mouth. Now, you might think this sounds crazy. Like, at the end of the day, whether we're breathing through our mouth or our nose, this oxygen is going through a hole and entering our lungs. Well, when we breathe through our nose, we're taking very slow and less frequent breaths. Versus when we breathe through our mouth, we're taking very fast, rapid breaths. And you might think this is good because we keep getting new oxygen into our body, and that's good to be a mouth breather, when really, our oxygen is only getting absorbed when we breathe out. So what does that mean? So that means when we breathe in through our mouth and we breathe out really quickly, that this oxygen is not getting any time to get absorbed. Now, when we breathe in through our nose, we're taking a slower breath, and when we breathe out through our nose, it's kind of creating like a bottleneck, because we have all this air that's in our lungs and is trying to get out, but we're breathing really slowly through our nose, and that's forcing this oxygen to get absorbed and go to all the right places, all the right organs, and help us function at the highest possible level. And you might be wondering, why wasn't I told this earlier if it's so important? Well, the truth is, I really don't know. And I kind of wish I was told this earlier too. Because now when you're breathing through your nose and you're getting more oxygen, that means more oxygen is getting to your brain. And your brain needs oxygen to survive. And actually, if we're a mouth breather, we're way more likely to be tired. Because when we're sleeping and we're breathing through our mouth, one, way less oxygen is getting to our brain. But also, if we're a mouth breather, we're way more likely to have sleep apnea. And a lot of this has to do with our nose, because when our lips are closed and we're breathing through our nose, that means our tongue is usually resting against the roof of our mouth. And this means we're getting enough room for air to go in from our nose to our lungs. And if you didn't know, our tongue is really big. It's not just in our mouth. And there's also part of our tongue that's in our throat as well. Now, if we're a mouth breather, our lips are open and our tongue is no longer resting against the roof of our mouth. Now our tongue is kind of fallen back. And when our tongue falls back, that means the tongue part in our throat is falling back as well. So now you're already getting less oxygen being absorbed by your body when you breathe through your mouth, but now you're having an even harder time breathing through your mouth, because your tongue is going in the back of your throat and is blocking this airway. And also, you're way more likely to snore when you breathe through your mouth as well. And again, it has to do with your tongue, because usually your tongue is resting against the roof of your mouth, but now your tongue is falling back in the back of your mouth and back in the back of your throat, and that is causing your soft palate to start vibrating. And your soft palate is basically the roof of your mouth, but the back part of it. That back part of the roof of your mouth is called the soft palate. And when we breathe through our mouth and this part is exposed and it's not being blocked by our tongue, then this will start to vibrate and create that snoring sound. And what's even worse is, if it's really bad, our tongue can fall to the back of our throat and completely cut off our breathing. Now our body thinks that we're dead because we're not getting any oxygen. And this is also called sleep apnea, in case you haven't heard of this before. This is why it's so important for so many people to get a sleep study, because sleep apnea is getting diagnosed more and more, and we're seeing a lot more of these issues, and it's actually becoming an epidemic in the United States. So let's say that you don't have sleep apnea, but you're still a mouth breather. Well, you're still gonna have issues, because now, even though you're still able to breathe and get oxygen, you're still not gonna be able to absorb as much oxygen as if you would breathe through your nose. And this will also affect your sleep quality. So even if you sleep 8 hours a day, but one person is a nose breather and one person is a mouth breather, that person who's a nose breather is going to be way more refreshed. And the reason is you do not get as much deep sleep when you are a mouth breather. If you don't know what deep sleep is, you basically have these 4 stages in your sleep cycle. And your sleep basically gets more and more deeper, meaning it's harder for you to wake up the later these stages in your sleep cycle are. Now, if you're a mouth breather, you're less likely to get these deep stages because 1, your brain's not getting enough oxygen, and 2, you also potentially have sleep apnea, which is blocking your breathing and waking you up and cutting off that sleep cycle. So that means even if you sleep 8 hours, all 8 hours that you're supposed to sleep, you're still gonna be tired and groggy the next day. And what's really interesting is they're finding that being tired is showing a lot of the same symptoms as ADHD. If you really look at what are the symptoms of ADHD, it's being tired, irritable, it's kind of acting out, interrupting others. And what is the reason for all these symptoms? Well, when you're tired and you're showing all these symptoms, it's just your body's way of trying to stay awake. And there's even doctors out there who think ADHD is a fake disease. Now, I'm not saying anything, but I really want you to start wondering, why do we have to take these pills in order to function normally? What is the root cause? Why do we even have to be in this position in the first place to have to take these pills to function normally? Taking these pills is a very easy thing to do, but if we can figure out what's causing these symptoms of ADHD and fix that, wouldn't you rather do that? I'm willing to bet if people looked more into the way that they sleep and more into the way that they breathe, that there would be less diagnosed cases of ADHD. And there's so many more benefits to breathing through your nose. You are way more likely to be relaxed and calm if you breathe through your nose versus your mouth. Because when you breathe through your nose, you're basically using your lungs' whole capacity. Really, the way you should be breathing is your belly should be sticking out every single breath that you take. What happens when your belly sticks out is that means that your diaphragm is moving, and your diaphragm rests underneath your lungs. And when your diaphragm moves, that means that you're using your lungs' whole capacity. When we're a mouth breather, we're taking these really rapid, shorter breaths. So we're not really filling up our lungs. We're really only using the top half of our lungs. And if we're only using the top half of our lungs, like when you're a mouth breather, then you're gonna be activating the sympathetic nervous system in your body. And if you remember what this is from biology class, this is our body's fight or flight response. So that means it's gonna make you way more stressed out, way more anxious, and you're always gonna have this jittery feeling of being on the go. Now, once in a while, we need that response, but we don't always need that. And if we're just relaxing at home, you don't wanna be feeling like that. Now, it's way better to breathe through your nose and use your lungs' whole capacity, because this is actually gonna activate our parasympathetic response. And again, back to biology class, your parasympathetic response is your body's rest and relaxation response. So that means it's your body's signal that it's time to relax, and it's gonna keep you a lot more calm. It's not gonna release all these stressful hormones that are just gonna stress you out all day. If you wanna learn more about nose breathing versus mouth breathing and all the benefits to breathing through your nose, I'm putting some links in the description below because I did make some other videos on this. And if you have any other questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked that video, and if you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below. I'll see you in the next video.